Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming on this extremely rainy day. Not extremely rainy. It looked really bad earlier. Thanks for coming on this day to our City Council meeting. If you could please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Bob, would you mind leading us in a brief prayer?
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this evening. We thank you for the opportunity we have to gather here to take care of the business of our city. Father, we thank you for these who have come. We ask for wisdom and guidance of your Holy Spirit as we conduct the city's business. We ask for your blessing over all of our residents, our police officers, our firefighters, and Lord, that you'll just bless them, protect them and their families, and again, our citizens. This we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
So the last meeting that we had, before I ask for the roll call, the last meeting we had, there was some concern brought up about the need to be able to hear what we're saying. We're going to do our very best to make sure we speak into the microphones, and I'm not looking at Penny when I say that. That's true of everybody. One thing we do have is we have some devices. So if anybody needs, we have about 4 working right now that can be used as a hearing device. So what goes in the microphone goes to the device and then goes to some headphones. So if that's something you'd like, feel free to request that. You can request that probably by coming just this way. But if there's nobody with that need, of course, then I think we're good. Just note that we do have that technology available now for the people who are at our city council meetings. Liz, could you go ahead and call roll?
Yes. Mayor Bonta,
Here.
Member Alvarez,
Here.
Member Weinbach,
Here.
Member Geishurst,
Here.
Member Parnell,
Here.
Member Vasquez, Member Ambler,
Here.
Member Zilli.
Here.
Did everyone have a chance to look at the minutes? And if so, is there a motion to approve those minutes from the last meeting?
I'll make the motion to approve last month's meeting.
I will second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Liz, could you please call roll?
Member Alvarez,
Yes.
Member Weinbach,
Yes.
Member Geishurst,
Yes.
Member Parnell,
Yes.
Member Ambler,
Yes.
Member Zilli.
Yes.
Thank you. We have the communications, correspondence, and announcements from the mayor. I'm going to start by asking our chief of police to come up. I know that we have a matter that, or actually, is it you, chief, or someone else coming up? 2 of us. 2 are coming up, okay.
Good evening. So I would like to ask Mrs. Delgado to come up and join us. You want to bring the stop sign? No. Stop. So I do not want to ruin your first name. Is it Migdalia or because okay? So I wanted to do a little bit of a bestow an honor tonight. So Mrs. Delgado started as a crossing guard here in October of 2001. So that was a full year before I was hired on this department, and I feel old. So she's been doing this for a long time. So as a rookie officer, when there were shortages in the crossing guard, if somebody had a call off or whatever, they would send us out there to do it. If you were the low officer on the totem pole that day, you would have to go out and do crossing guard. I'm going to tell you, it was not one of my favorite things to do. The reasons for that were dealing with impatient drivers and directing traffic are some of the most frustrating things that you can ever do as a police officer or obviously as a crossing guard. Yet she somehow managed to do this for, let's see, that's hard math, what are we talking, 23 years. Again, there's a lot of stuff that goes into being a police officer, and I would rather do a lot of those rather than have to direct traffic or deal with crabby people who are trying to get somewhere and you're asking them to slow down and stop. So she's been manning the Fagley Crossing Guard since 2001. And as you can imagine, that's through all that Mother Nature can throw at you. Rain, heat, cold, snow, wind. What else we got? What else have you been out there in? Parents. There you go. There you go. So I really have to commend her and all of our crossing guards for filling such an important need. On top of that, the hours aren't the most convenient. You're out there early in the morning, you're doing your crossing, and then you got to come back in the afternoon. So it kind of, although you've got that free time in between there, it's definitely a commitment in your day because you've got to cover both ends of that. So, like I said, dealing with the unpredictable weather that we have here in Northwest Indiana, the unpredictable parents and citizens that we have here in Northwest Indiana. So it's a thankless job, yet very important. Our school children have been safer for her efforts for around 23 years. So we just wanted to thank her for her service, and we have a plaque for her. And I brought up Captain Harmeling, who is kind of oversees the crossing guard duties, and he had mentioned to me that she has been an amazing pleasure to work with over the 4+ years that he's been held this position. So looks like she brought up some family, some loved ones here, so I just wanted to go ahead and recognize her in front of everybody. So. Real quick. You want to bring the little ones back up again, or? All right, look at these right here.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. So, for my next, announcement, opportunity for the council. So when you're a mayor, you get contacted by a lot of people, and sometimes the neatest thing is when you get contacted by other mayors or some former mayors. And when they have an interesting last name, that's the best. So not too long ago, I got contacted by former Mayor Goodnight of Kokomo, Indiana. He's here with us today, and he's here because he told me about an opportunity that might be beneficial to our city. Just like anything that might be beneficial to our city, sometimes things are beneficial when we can afford them. Sometimes things are, we can't afford not to do them. Sometimes things are just plain beneficial. But when I met with him and met with some of his people, I thought that the most appropriate thing would be to have an opportunity for them to come and speak to the council just for a little bit. And they're here for, as long as you guys would like them, because sometimes an idea, you kind of know exactly where it's going to impact, where it's going to get, paid for from, or who's going to benefit. But I thought for this, it'd be good to bring you guys all in and just kind of see if there's a in the council on this. Would you guys mind coming up? Mayor Goodnight, you're not coming up? No worries.
So good evening, everybody. My name is Rick Anderson. I'm with a company called Verigy. Greg works with me, former mayor of Kokomo, as we talked about. Met with the mayor, Leanne, a couple weeks ago. So little funny story before I get into my thing. So I made such a mark with you guys, especially with Leanne, that we've traded some voicemails back and forth. I know she's busy, and we finally got a hold of each other, and she says, who are you? So I try to make more of a mark when I make a presentation to folks, but I know. Anyway, thank you so much. So I'll get into my spiel here real quick. So we do business, we're in the energy conservation business. So we do business with, I call on municipalities. So anything city, town, county, airport, library, and we do a lot of K through 12 work as well. But we work with communities to, you have to look at this thing as two different things. It's energy and operational savings, but it's also infrastructure improvement. So we don't build new buildings. I say we're in the renovation business. So if you've got existing facilities that need new upgrades with systems, that's what we're looking at to do. So your first little page in your handout kind of describes the things that we look at. It's really anything that's utilizing utilities to work. So it's HVAC, it's lighting, and we do quite a bit of solar as well. Just a quick little blurb on the utility situation. You guys might know or don't know, we are a regulated utility state. You're kind of stuck with who your utility company is. They've been raising rates considerably over the last couple of years. Average rate increase in the state's been 6% over the past 15 years. We started working with a municipality down south, different utility company, but kind of same situation. Their rates have increased 66% over the past 6 years, and it's not getting any better anytime soon. So that's something to consider. The next couple of handouts in your packet there involve the Inflation Reduction Act. I don't know if you guys know much about it or not. It was passed by the federal government back in 2022. It gives you all the opportunity, any 501c3, so any non-tax paying entities, if you guys install either solar, batteries, or geothermal, you'd get at least a 30% direct payment check back from the federal government. I know you're currently working on a project at wastewater, but what we're really talking about doing for you guys is all your other existing facilities. So fire stations, this building, any existing facility that you have, we would do an assessment for you. It would cost the city nothing, free of charge, and we'd also come back to you with recommendations on a potential project. At that point, after we come back with the assessment, you guys can either say, Rick, thanks so much, we're not really interested, or we'd love to move forward with some project, either all of your recommendations, some of your recommendations, but that would happen again after we would make the recommendations to you all. So really pretty simple, no cost to you guys. We come back with a sample cash flow of what a project would look like, and you could either move forward or not.
Well, thank you very much. Are there questions from the council?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I would be interested to know, maybe if you could provide an example of what kind of improvements or upgrades you made to the city of Kokomo, and how much cost savings.
We didn't do Kokomo, but I gave you two. No, we didn't do Kokomo, but I
The
gave you
mayor
two.
wouldn't allow it.
You guys have two case histories in your packet as well. One is for Shelbyville, one is for North Vernon, that really describes what we've done. We're also doing work in the county. We're doing major projects at Valparaiso schools, at Hebron schools, and we're also talking to the local school district here about a potential project as well. So,
Thank you.
yes. Yeah, so all tonight, to do the assessment, all I'm looking for is a motion from you guys to say, hey, we'd like to do the assessment.
I can kind of
I-
state, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Gina, sorry.
Is there a requirement as to the age of the building?
No. We're redoing a courthouse down in Versailles right now. That's the second oldest courthouse. It was built back in 1865. We're doing HVAC, windows, all kinds of stuff, so doesn't matter.
Ed, I have a question for you on this process-wise. If this is a no-cost thing, why is it the city council, not the Board of Works, that's voting on this?
So the reason for this is actually kind of twofold. One is that one is because they wanted to speak to the council, so I guess that's the first part. Second part is there's nothing in particular that we have money like appropriated for, like in the budget. And to put it really gently, I could try to comb through and try to find a spot that this could be used for, what have you, but potentially what they're looking at, I kind of want to know if you guys are interested in it before I really pursue this. Because like I say, this didn't come out of really my priorities, if you will. I was approached, and anytime that I'm approached by a company, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're always going to get to this level, but I just like to have some guidance from my council about what you guys might be comfortable looking at. Is it worth, because I wouldn't want to do an assessment, have them come up with a big project, and then if there's a need to change the budget or something, I'd rather just kind of see what you guys think from the start. I hope that makes sense.
And the whole premise is you're already spending the money. We're just trying to help you spend it more efficiently, so.
I don't believe we actually need like a vote. In fact, I don't really know what you'd be voting on. I think even here, I guess I'd wonder about if you guys wanted the opportunity to give some public feedback to the idea. And certainly you're welcome to give me some like, I don't mean say private, like secret, but you can certainly think about it, look it over, and let me know. I just wanted to involve you guys this early on, given that I myself, it's not like I was searching and found this, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for moving forward. The money's out there. The federal government has 385 billion, something like that, of money sitting out there to spend. We should be taking advantage of every dollar we can get out of it. There's no reason not to, so.
Yeah, two cares, the utility situation and the IRA thing. Get yours if you can.
Well, and I think, Tracy, if you don't mind me talk, we've done something similar, but I believe with a different company over at the sanitary plant. Is that correct? Or did we use, feel free to come up if that's okay. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
So yes, we are doing a major solar project at our plant. It was brought to us by our engineers, in fact. We were going for SRF financing for our clarifiers, and the IRA credits came available. And so it was, they knew that I was interested in a solar type thing to bring down our energy levels, our electric mainly, because we spend like $48,000 a month for electricity with NIPSCO. So they brought the idea to us. Baker Tilly has assisted us with obtaining the major amount, because you don't always get 30%. You got to prove that it's made in the USA, you got to prove everything, and a lot of the solar concept was hard. We fought tooth and nail to get our 30%. They wanted to give us less. So it's a great thing with the IRA credits right now. If another department is able to do it, that would be great. But yes, it was really sold to us as a way to get SRF to fund us easier, because they rank you by certain points on your project. And if you added a solar concept or an energy saving concept, you raised higher in the points. So besides saving, it also helped us to be able to finance it through SRF.
Yeah.
So ours was brought by our engineers.
Gotcha. Thank you.
But we do a lot of this other stuff that they're talking about. NIPSCO has grants for lighting, LED lighting, which we took advantage of. Fleet management, there's different fleet management things you could do, so you get the cheapest vehicles. I'm sure all the other departments use that. But there are other things that we can look at for this type of stuff.
One other question I have, assuming you
Yes.
might be able to answer.
Yeah.
One, I'm just thinking of an example, would charging stations be able to
Yes.
qualify? Because it's something the city's lacking. I mean,
You bet.
city itself
We
has
absolutely
none
need it, yeah.
on city property, but just in general, businesses in the city don't generally
Yeah.
have them, so.
We're doing EV charging and like school bus, a lot of these K-12 are looking at school bus charging for electric school buses, so all that kind of stuff, exactly.
Again, I think I'm getting a general direction. I mean, you guys are all, I mean, again, I know that I have the ability to do, pursue this as it is, but it is to say this is something that interests you guys, the council, as a direction to pursue for other departments. Like I say, I know we did something essentially the same with sanitary, but as Tracy mentioned, there were a couple other factors that went into play with, what we qualified for because of that. And Tracy was somebody that I reached out to pretty quick. In fact, I think the first time we met, I called Tracy
Yeah,
on the phone.
You did,
Yeah.
yeah.
Unless there's any other questions, I think we'll talk in the future, literally, I'll probably give you guys a call tomorrow if that's all right, and we'll see what we can do.
Tomorrow's fine, thank
Cool,
you.
thank you.
Thanks.
And then one last spot for me, and then I'll switch it over to Liz for her report. I just want to make sure that everybody is aware that this Friday, we've got two special events going on. One is at 2:45 p.m., and it is the grand opening ribbon cutting of the improvements at the east side of Founders Square. We're all really excited about it. And then immediately after that, at 3 p.m., is the official opening for the 2024 Market on the Square season. This is going to be, I think, the best Market on the Square season yet. We've got farmers coming in with produce. We've got a lot of different activities and things that went in that's going to make this really special. So just remember Friday, if you're available at 2:45 for the ribbon cutting, and then 3 p.m. is when we officially open the Market on the Square. And then I'll switch it over to Liz for her report.
Okay, the clerk treasurer's report is that we've been working diligently for the on the 2025 budget. We've already started talks. Myself, Austin, Leanne, and the HR, and the city attorney. We're going to hit the road running, getting our budget. Hopefully, we get the budget in place before the end of August.
Yeah, it's a big goal, but I believe we're going to hit it. So, thank you, Liz. We'll go on to our new business. We have an introduction of ordinances. Ordinance number 2417, amended ordinance 2412, travel and reimbursement. Let's see, Bob, would you be comfortable reading this one?
Ordinance 24-17, an ordinance repealing and replacing Section 2-108 of Chapter 2, Travel and Reimbursement of the Municipal Code of the City of Portage. Let the record reflect that the ordinance has been read in its entirety.
Thank you, Bob.
Motion to suspend. Second.
We have a motion to suspend, and we have a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion to adopt. Second.
We have a motion to adopt, and we have a second. Is there any discussion? And if not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And it passes. All right. If we could go into our public safety reports. Chief Crail, would you mind coming up first?
Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to thank you, Mayor Bonta, for getting me up here in front of Chief Candiano. For the month of May, we were up a little bit. Our call volume, we ran 512 calls, 9% increase from 2023. 70% of those calls were EMS-based. 42% increase in car accidents, surprisingly. The warmer weather, the car accidents are really on the rise. I'm sure they are for the police as well. We had 6 structure fires, 3 vehicle fires, and 2 brush fires in May. A 22% increase in our service calls and good intent calls, up to 106 from last month. We did have 7 mutual aid ambulances come into the city this month. With the increased call volume and the more severe types of calls that we are going on, it opens up larger gaps for our crews, and so we do have to call more mutual aid in on occasion. Personnel, we did, like I mentioned last month, Randy Wilkening did retire after 30 years of service for the city of Portage. We have called his replacement. With all the recent hires, they're awaiting their physicals and or results. They've all been sent down. We do have one on major medical, which, as a side note, he will not be returning to the job for medical reasons. And we have one on light duty. Vehicle, all of our apparatus are in service. Chuck and our budget has taken a hit. It takes a lot to keep our apparatus in service, but he does an amazing job. It seems like one gets fixed and something happens with something else. It's crazy how it works, but he does an awesome job keeping everything up and going, and everything is currently in service. Our assistant to firefighter grant, nothing to report with that. Like I said previously, we won't hear anything until probably early fall at the earliest. We will be submitting in the next couple of days the federal port security grant that will help upfit some of our dive boat with all the electronics. The electronics are 12 years old. The motors are also 12 years old with lots of hours on them, and honestly quite undersized for the size of boat that we've got. Training was a busy month. May was a busy month for our training. We have probably collectively within all of our apparatus and stations at least 10,000 foot of hose. The month of May was our hose testing month, so they did go out and pressure tested all of our fire hose. We did have some fail, but fortunately we had some in reserve, which we will have to replenish. But over 10,000 feet of fire hose, I mean, that's a lot of fire hose. It's time consuming, split between the 3 crews. Hats off to them for taking care of that. We had an acting engineer week-long for the younger people on the department to come up and learn how to drive the fire engines. There are requirements within our SOPs that you have to have 3 years on the job, and then you can learn how to drive the fire apparatus. So we did do a week-long training for that. Our EMS training for the month was dealing with environmental emergencies and the usage of helicopter. Again, perfect timing. We had a spurt of warmer weather, and then we had a spurt of cold weather again. But the weather is going to be increasing. Environmental emergencies are going to be something that we are going to be dealing with quite a bit. And the use of helicopters, quite honestly, the increase in the car accidents, those when we get a lot of our helicopter calls. And so knowing the right times and places to call is always positive. Where are we at here? So we also did this month something that's very important. It's not necessarily training, but important nonetheless. We had, every year we do a comprehensive physical with the fire department. The comprehensive physicals include blood work, strength component, treadmill stress test, hearing test, vision test, and a pulmonary function test, which is required by OSHA. The fact that we are able to do that annually is amazing. You know, insurance companies don't necessarily like to pay for preventative care. And so the fact that we are able to get this physical, and it's definitely preventative care for the fire department. We've had personnel that they've been diagnosed with early diabetes that we've been able to get a hold of, hypertension, various heart problems, all because we're doing these annual physicals. Definitely something that is very beneficial. We're also very fortunate to partner with the YMCA. They have an amazing scan called the Staiku scan. It is a 360-degree 3D scan. You stand on a platform, it spins you around, and it breaks down all of your percentage of body fat, your body mass index, your visceral fat. None of that, you know, it's humbling to stand up there and get all of this information told to you. However, this information is also something that helps identify and something that can be rectified. All of the statistics are based off the World Health Organization statistics. So we did all of that in the month of May, and while it sounds like a few sentences here, it occupies a lot of our time on top of running a lot of calls. Our community involvement, we've had several school tours. We had the pleasure of participating in the Jones School Walkathon and also the Portage Senior Fair. We were able to hand out several disaster preparedness books, with certain of the books that we handed out contained winning tickets for upcoming station tour or station tours. So any of those that are watching, Joe Siegel is waiting your call for the station tours. Kind of an inside joke, and I hope that he's watching. I just got a text message, so I'm pretty sure that he knows. The accolades. So, you know, we like to do the accolades every month. I think it's cool that Chief Candiano and I are able to do this. This month, so I'm kind of splitting the accolades a little bit this month. I definitely want to thank all of you that participated in Fire Ops 101. Such an amazing program. I was so happy that we were able to get it going and something that we were able to do. And for the crews that came out and helped out on it, I really hope that it gave you an insight to what it is that we do. And maybe, not saying that you didn't appreciate what we do prior, but maybe just a little bit more of appreciation, you know, the weight of the tools and, you know, what exactly it takes to go in and do a search and rescue, and you know, and then ultimately getting to see the fire over your head. I hope that you all enjoyed it immensely. I know that we enjoyed it, and hope a lot of good things come out of it. So that's the first part of it. The second part, last night, I'm not sure if how many of you saw or paid attention to, but there was a pretty significant fire at Econo Lodge motel on the north side of the city last night. When our fire crews arrived, there were people that were hanging out of the second floor windows because the smoke had gotten up to the second floor and was forcing them out their windows. So our crews did an awesome job last night, throwing ladders, making those rescues their first priority. In the fire service, no matter what the fire or what the situation, life safety is your first tactical priority, and those guys knocked it out of the park last night. They worked really coordinated together. They were able to perform the rescues and get a really good knock on the fire to prevent the fire from, I mean, there was the potential that was going to spread throughout an entire wing of that motel, and so the crews did an amazing job, and I just want them to know that they did an awesome job, and I'm very grateful for that. So that's all that I have. I'll try to make it quick. Do you have any questions for me? Outstanding. Thank you all very much. Have a great night.
Thank you, Chief. Chief Candiano, would you like to come back up? What would I do if he says no? I got no idea.
All right. I think there's some kind of saying, something about saving the best for last or something like that. But so if you make me go first next month, I'll have to try to find some better saying to make that work. But so our total incidents for May, 2,930. It's about 95 a day. For 2024, we're at 15,447 through the end of May. That's up 345 from last year. Hiring and staffing, kind of same boat we've been in. We've currently got 5 officers in the field training program. We've got 2 that we've made offers to that we'll be starting the pension approval process. We actually have 1 that is already enrolled in the pension, so he actually started this week, and he's one of those 5 that's in the training process. So currently leaves us with 4 openings. However, we've got 2 on major illness, 1 on light duty, and 1 on workman's comp for an injury that they sustained while fighting a prisoner. So we just feel like we keep taking 1 step forward and 2 back with staffing, but confident we'll get there eventually. But it's kind of where we're at right now. Community engagement this month. We had a couple school tours. We participated in the senior health fair, and we had a couple officers visit a local daycare. So some exciting news. We recently got 8 new Durangos. They have arrived, and we've begun detailing them. I know the mayor sent out a picture of those. Unfortunately, sometimes when you try to be transparent and share things with the public, improper information gets shared, and then you got to go and try to clear that up. I guess that's just...
Chief, do you mean to say that we shouldn't be expecting cars to get to 250,000 miles before we... Sorry.
No. You're alluding to some of the things that I read.
Just messing with you, Chief?
No, again, it's part of the world we live in. Everybody has their opportunity to share things out in the public now, and it's tough because sometimes you don't catch all the comments and you're not able to explain the facts on all of them. But I just hope that most people are thinking things through and seeing if it logically makes sense before they post things. But so that being said, there were some concerns about putting on ghost decals. We don't use ghost decals. We use the same ones that we've been using for years. Those are what are going on the cars right now. There were some concerns about marked vehicles. I did a count. Nearly 80% of our patrol division is currently in marked vehicles. There were some questions about why we purchased the Durangos. It comes down to a cost. They're significantly cheaper than some of the other manufacturers. We've also been doing the Dodge thing for a while, so we've got a bunch of Chargers out there. We've got Durangos. If you can, it makes sense to stay with what you've got because of the street department working on your vehicles and things. So I read some stuff about light bars. We've gone to interior light bars because then you don't have to drill holes into the roof of your vehicle anymore. The light bars aren't being exposed to all the elements and things. They last longer. So, yeah, there were a lot of questions, a lot of things that came up. A police car will never make it 250,000 miles. If it does, it's probably not something that you want showing up at your house. I do understand that there are cars that last that long, but as I've been sitting here, I've heard between us and the fire department probably go lights and sirens at least 3 times in the 35 minutes that we've been sitting in here. The type of driving that we do and the fire department does is not the same as what I hope it's not the same as what you're doing in your general car. Hopefully you're not on the brake, on the gas, on the brake, on the gas. Although I have seen some people that do drive like that. But, and we're also putting around 20,000 miles to 25,000 miles on a car per year, depending on what shift they work. Obviously, more calls on days and afternoons, less on midnights, so midnights is more driving. I think that the public would like us to be out driving around, getting into neighborhoods and being seen more rather than sitting in parking lots and saving miles. So not trying to be sarcastic, but just kind of making some of the points that I read about. So,
Chief, if you don't mind me saying or asking, because one of the things I do think is that we strive for transparency. You are fantastic at that too, and sometimes when you get stuff out there, you don't always know what questions people are going to ask.
Nope.
Because sometimes it comes at you, we're like, oh, you thought thought of everything, and
Yep.
we do a really good job. The police do a really good job thinking of everything. Would you mind walking through the life cycle that we've talked about with the cars? Because one of the questions I know that I got, and you explained it very well to me, is in a perfect world, which I know we're not at yet, but we're working towards, what is the proper life cycle for a police vehicle in terms of where it starts when it's brand new to how it ends up going from, like, say, patrol to where it goes to the detectives, back up? Would you mind just kind of giving a brief walkthrough for that in the
Sure.
ideal?
Yeah, so we've got, obviously, the patrol division. That's your uniformed officers, primarily marked cars, some unmarked cars that are being driven by supervisors. Those are the cars that if you generally have a call right now, that's who's showing up at your house or your business or whatnot. So those cars, that's generally where the new cars go and they start. And again, that's 25,000 miles or so, 20,000 to 25,000 miles or so, those will get on in a year. We also have our detective bureau, obviously less miles there because they're housed out of the station. They do go out into the field, but not as often. So about the time a car hits 80,000 miles, they start having some issues. And I know we showed you some of our cars that have had over 100-some thousand miles that are out on the road, and you saw how they start to break down. Just putting this uniform on and getting in a car is tough on the seats. It's tough on all of that stuff in the driver's seat area. If I'm being honest, those cars are puked in. Those cars are soiled in all other types of manner that you can imagine in the back seats, not the front seats. So once they hit about 80,000 miles, they start to have problems. They start to become more of a money pit to be putting them out there. So at that point, what we try to do is we try to move them into the detective bureau, which is getting less miles, or we also have our reserve division. So I'm not sure if we have one of our reserves here tonight, but generally our reserves are at all of these meetings. They're at all of our public events. We've talked a lot about our reserves. The reserves do not have a budget. Basically, they get the scraps of whatever is left from the department. And they do an amazing job keeping those cars running. So ultimately, those cars generally trickle down to them. And you'll see they've got 130,000, 140,000 miles on them. They are not the prettiest vehicles out there, but that's what it is. So the life of a car, as you said, generally they're starting the patrol division, may go to the detective bureau depending on, but sometimes, as we've fallen behind, some of these cars are staying in patrol till 115, 120,000 miles, and then that may be the end of life, or they're going into the reserves, and then ultimately they'll be sold at an auction. So, yeah, I think that pretty much, so we're not just using them out in patrol, getting to a certain number of miles, and then we're done with them. We're taking them as far as we can. We're moving equipment out of them, radios, different things like that. We try to get the most you can out of them, but like I said, 200,000 miles that's probably a pipe dream. If we can get 130,000 miles out of a car that's transitioned all the way to a reserve car, that's probably pretty darn good for the type of driving that they're being exposed to.
Well,
Go ahead.
and just in that time period, there's a decent chance they'll be wrecked.
That's a problem too. Yeah, I had brought, and I don't have that in front of me, but I brought some statistics to you all before, and I think we had at least 8 cars wrecked in the last couple of years, and that were not our fault. So that ties into all of that too. As we've talked about, you buy a brand new police car, it gets wrecked somewhere along that line. There isn't a market for used cars. So let's say we get a $16,000 insurance payout. It's not like we can go buy a $16,000 police car and replace it. We've just lost a car. So when you factor in, however many we're trying to get a year, that throws the whole thing kind of, that puts it all into a mess if you're losing cars that way too. So, and then obviously you have to have, on top of what you said, I missed another part there, you have to have some standby cars because there are things that happen. A car, has some kind of mechanical problem and it takes a couple days to replace it. You obviously can't just pull that officer off the road and tell him to come back in a couple days. We have to have a fleet of standby cars that are available. We recently had a K9 car where the air conditioning went out. Obviously, you got to have something to put them in while that's being fixed. So not only do you have your patrol cars, your detective cars, your reserve cars, you also need some standby cars so that we can still be responding to things. So,
Chief, I know we've also talked, and you were on it from the beginning when I came in as mayor, even when I was mayor-elect, about the importance of budgeting for cars. And there have been years in the past where it wasn't part of like the budget, for the city. So by the end, we would be trying to figure out as a city where money is going to come from, how many we can buy. I know we've had some good years. We've had some years that were more challenging, but
Yep.
Liz mentioned, and we're working on the 2025 budget. It's very important to me that we have a budget item in there that we can put towards, have a plan to be able to purchase vehicles and then start doing that consistently. I could talk on and on about that, but I thought maybe it might be good if you could just kind of touch on briefly the importance of being able to buy the cars as soon as possible, when the year starts. Why it's important to be able, if you can, to be able to do your ordering, in the beginning of the year rather than wait until the end.
yeah, I mean, the whole thing, it's like everything else. And it's like, I don't remember the world before COVID. And I don't know if we had these problems before. We probably did, but it seems like everything's been exacerbated by that. There's such a delay on anything at this point. So obviously, when we get the car, it's got to be upfitted. You've got to get the equipment ordered to put in the cars. You've got to get those appointments to get, that upfitter to put the things in. The decals, again, have to be ordered, things like that. So getting the cars is just the first part of it. And getting the cars generally is placing an order, as for them to be built. Now, we lucked out this year, and I'm glad we did. We were able to find, we did the bid process. We were able to find some vehicles that were already on lots, and we were able to obtain those. That's not going to happen every year. We could have been in a point where we said, these are the cars we need, and they said there was nobody to fulfill that. We only had 2 people respond to the bid as it was in the state. So, yeah, the best course of action is you get those cars, and I'm not an expert on the auto industry, but I know there's certain times where they're building and certain times where they're taking orders, and the best way to do that is to get in at the beginning when they're taking those orders so that you've got a car that is coming, built, and then you can start ordering your equipment in them so that then you're not, like I said, it all worked out great this year, and I'm very thankful, but it could have been real bad if we hadn't been able to find some vehicles and find the funding. We could have been in bad shape come next year, because every time you push that back, then those cars they're going to keep getting miles, and they're going to keep breaking down, and the costs are going to keep going up, and they're going to be spending time at the street department or wherever. And then you find yourself where then you need 20 cars, and that's not where you want to be, because again, it just keeps compiling, because then 5-6 years from now you need 20 cars. So it's best to get on some kind of a pattern so that you know what to expect, and you're always filling that need. So I know that was long-winded, but hopefully that made sense.
No, it's very appreciated. I wanted to make sure that you spoke longer than Chief Crail. I know how important that is to you, so I
My
just thought I'd
sheet,
have
for the
some.
record, was much shorter today. It was a short one today, I promise you.
But on a more serious note, people talk about the importance of saving money, the importance of being efficient with money, and it's true, but we also need to understand that public safety, whether that's police and fire, it is expensive. And it was expensive before COVID. It's going to be expensive in the future, but it's the heart and soul of what we provide at the local government level. So I think I'm speaking for everyone here when we say we are committed to funding, and we're committed to funding efficiently. But I also appreciate that both in police and fire, you guys have gone just above and beyond with working with the team to find some of the best plans available to be able to make smart purchases, and I appreciate you both.
Thank you, and we appreciate the help getting us to where we were this year, because I came to you at the beginning of the year with a big problem, and I don't know if we had a solution there for a while, but we found one, and so it's appreciated. So, just a couple more things here now. Again, I wasn't going to talk that long, but I just want to recognize a couple people. We did have some promotions within the last week. Tony Ortiz and Tony Bowling were both promoted to corporal. Again, with all of our retirements, it just opens up promotions. So there's a couple more coming in the next couple weeks. We've got 2 retirements coming this week. I'll leave that for the next meeting to recognize them, but this is, I believe, the end of the known retirements, and it's been a long haul of losing some quality people, but I think we're at the end here. So we had our luncheon on May 17th. Thought it went very well. Thanks to all of you that could have made it. We're going to try to make this bigger and bigger each year. So if you weren't able to attend this year, hopefully you'll get to come next year. But I think it was great. It was nice to see a lot of the families out there bringing their kids, a lot of retirees. It was a nice event. So the last 2 things I'm going to leave you with, graduation. Hopefully everybody is looking at the Facebook pages. We put out some information about graduation. If you do not need to go to Airport Road on Thursday after, say, 4 o'clock, don't go. Stay north of Lute, yeah, and it may even back up even beyond there. If you need to get into those areas to the east, I'd recommend going further east and backtracking. We tried to be pretty specific on the ways of getting into the school so that I know not everybody will see it or everybody will pay attention to it, but I've worked that many times, especially as an SRO. It doesn't matter how many people you have out there. I think we've got a great plan. There's still going to be congestion. It's where the school's at and how many people are trying to get there. So if you don't want to get stuck, don't go. If you need to be at graduation, do not show up 5 minutes beforehand. You probably won't make it in time. And hopefully read through the different entrances and other options of getting into the school. So lastly, that being said, I did want to recognize one officer. Corporal Trent Howard is going to be leaving Portage High School. So he's been an SRO there for more than 4 years. I believe he was our first SRO that went back into the schools once we made the arrangement back with Portage Township Schools. So he did an awesome job. I don't have enough, or I can't say enough about the great things he did and about reestablishing that relationship when he went in there. Just been a real asset to us. He's not going away. He's going to the Detective Bureau, so just a little bit of a career change. And we've got some shuffling around. We've got another great SRO that's going to fill his spot, and then another SRO there's going to be some shuffling around. I'll announce that in a little bit. But I just wanted to give him some props because he did a great job there, really embraced that role as being a resource officer. And I think he's going to be a great detective, but I just wanted to recognize him for his time there. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks.
Tracy, I sent you a message. Did you want to come up and address what's coming up? And thank you for coming up earlier. I know I kind of put you on the spot there, and I apologize if that was sudden.
It's fine. Good evening. So at the plant right now, we're very busy with the construction. Solar field the brackets are going to go up next week. We just had a meeting today about it, so brackets are starting to go up, and then panels after that on the solar. First clarifier will be, it's been everything replaced on it, and it's going to be run on Tuesday. So fingers crossed, everything goes well with it. Evoqua, who is the manufacturer, will be on site to make sure everything's running the way it should be, and to train our guys on the different uses of it. As you guys know, clarifiers are over 40 years old. This equipment is not cheap that we work with. Everything is, like everyone else has said, prices are going up. We had an influent pump go out last week. The guys worked very hard. We even pulled people from field to come assist us to remove it. We have 3 pumps, influent pumps. They're over 25 years old. So we did have a backup. We were able to put it online within a couple days. That being said, the other 2 are 25 years old too. So when one goes, the rest are gonna go. So we have to order backup for that. You're talking about $50,000 a pump for something like that. Replacing line, I know, as far as the plant, we also had blowers that had issues just the last couple days. We're having to replace motors on blowers. A lot of the equipment at the plant, there hasn't been a major upgrade besides what we're doing now with the clarifiers in almost 20 years. So all of this stuff, and that being said, Dan's not here today, but field is the same way. We're talking pipes that run through here that were bringing the sanitary to us, that we had a collapse just a couple weeks ago. It's gonna be $250,000 for that collapse. To line pipes would be great. If we can get back in our budget, lining of pipes, we'd be able to do a lot more with our money, so we don't have to have these emergency fixes. But that's costly too. I mean, we're looking at an SRF right now of about $3 million, or $6 million for lining that we're needing to do, and that won't even touch the amount of pipe that's in this city. We have transite pipe, which just crumbles when it gets old. So there's lots of issues as far as that. The plant is running good. We're not having major issues besides that. We're just having to keep up with it. We have really good staff in both field and at the sanitary plant that keeps everything running. I'd like to give kudos to my lab. They did receive the Lab Excellency Award from IWEA. It will be presented in August at their conference in Indianapolis, so we will be present to accept that. We're very excited about that, and I'd like to give kudos to Rebecca Gaines, she's our lab supervisor, Mike McBride, he's a lab tech, and Randy Wilkening Jr., who's also a lab technician. Very proud of them. Right now, they're going through something called DMR testing. That's, the state sends us unknown samples, and we have to test them and come back with a value, and they tell us if we've passed or not. Lab has never failed in Portage, so I do not see that. Our lab techs are the absolute best, as are my mechanics and my production. Just want to let everyone know that. Is there any direct questions about this? Yes, Penny.
I was curious, you said that some of the pipes are like 20 years old. Do you happen to know the typical life expectancy of those pipes?
So that's more on Dan's side, but usually our pipes are a lot older than 25 right now. So most of our pumps are like 25. 20 years is a good, depending on what type of pipe it is. So like I said, the transite, which was what was run years and years ago, because that was thought to be the best back when, we're finding now that that crumbles easier. That's our oldest pipes around here. We can line them with a liner that you put through them that cure in place, it cures it in place, and that assists to make them strong again. But it's most of the pipes, unless they've failed, we have not replaced, unless it's a new subdivision or something that went in. Everything else is from the beginning of the city.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I know that we've got a sanitary board meeting coming up this Thursday, and we're beginning to take a look at a process, and it's a significant one for the city.
Yes.
And if you're comfortable speaking a little bit about it, and then I can kind of speak a little bit too because as part of being mayor, I'm also the chair of the sanitary board.
So we are presenting a resolution to the sanitary board for a sewer rate increase. So at this time, we have had Buzz Cronin and Associates do a rate study of of Portage. What I can tell you is, I don't have the exact numbers of what's going to be right now, but we haven't had a raise in a long time. It's been a very long time that we've had a significant raise. We've always had that 3% kicker, which gives the sanitary 50 cents, and it gives sanitation 25 and storm 25. So there hasn't been a major increase. I've done some studies myself, pulled up some stuff off of Google just to see, and we're at about $39, I believe. Is that correct, Liz? Do you recall? Right now, sounds about right?
That sounds about right.
So just because when the bill's put together, it's sanitation, so it's your trash, it's your storm, and it's your sanitary. So when you get that bill and it's $70-something, that's not just sanitary. So about 39 of it is. Baker Tilly did a study last year, and they had it online. The average in the country of sanitation rate is $79. So we're
That's just the sanitation
That's
rate.
just for sanitation.
So Portage is 39 compared to the
We are
average.
very low. We're one of the lowest in the area. I don't have the exact numbers, but we're
One of the lowest in the state.
Yes.
I know that when we're talking about residents and what they're used to paying, telling them that it's, something might be going up, but that it's still going to be lower than a lot, that's still a big adjustment for a lot of people.
Correct.
And that's why it's important to me that we're transparent about this process as we go through it, both as a mayor, but also because of the council, towards the middle and then ideally the end of the summer. This will be something that we'll be bringing to you guys once we run through this process. But I say it with some really important notes, and I know that Randy Reeder's not here, but I know that Darren's here, so Darren can back me up on this. And I know that everyone's tired about talking about the recycling stuff and the dumpsters and all that, but if you don't mind me saying this, when I came in as mayor, if we think utilities, one of the first things that I did was I met with the street department, talked with Randy, and we talked about the costs impacting the city when it came to the, the bulk pickup day without the fee structure we now have in place. We talked about the free dumpsters that the city was giving, even though there was never anything budgeted to handle the over $100,000 being paid out. And we talked about the fact that we were not recycling, but we were spending money running the trucks twice, and for a lot of people giving the appearance that we were getting things recycled that was picked up. And I asked Randy the question, and I said, what would we have to raise our garbage fee to? What would we have to raise our garbage fee by to just keep doing what we were doing if we wanted to pay for what we're doing? He said, Mayor, we'd have to study, but we could tell you that we would have to raise it by at least $25 or maybe as much as $28 with a 3% annual inflator. And so a lot went into the decisions that we made when it came to trash and recycling, but the biggest financial impact was for me the fact that I don't think that residents could handle or would be okay with such a big increase, especially given that we weren't getting the bang for the buck with it and we had other options to handle. We looked at the storm, and Mr. Comenda's not here, Superintendent Comenda's not here, but we looked at the storm and we assessed ways that we could keep the fee where it needs to be, well, where it can be at the lowest possible rate. But when it comes to sanitary, well, I'm gonna push the button one more time, hang on a second. My one finger was getting tired, sorry. One of the things that I have felt about Portage, and I hope that this gets construed as a positive statement, because I mean it as a positive with positive intent. Over the years, Portage has sometimes come up with a really good idea, just a really good idea, and then we'll do it for 20 years for free, and then we'll turn around and tell residents, darn it, it's gotten too expensive, we need to raise the price. And people say, well, what do we get out of this price increase? And then we have to turn around and say, well, everything you've been getting for free or at a really low rate, but we're going to raise the price for it. Compared to what I think is a better strategy to shift to, which is we start saying, what do we need to do? What's the good improvement coming? And then how do we explain to the residents, to voters, to our citizens, the people that put us here, that what we're doing is to improve things in the future. So I really appreciate you being here, Tracy, to talk about the improvements that are coming and the improvements that we need in our city, but we can't make those improvements, then kick the can down the road about how to pay for them. So I say it because this whole thing is a process. It's really important that we communicate it clearly. It's a step-by-step process. But just to make sure that people know when it comes to your utility bill, and I know a lot of people, like you say, they think of trash and storm and sanitary because it's one check, it's one payment. But to see how it really breaks down, know the effort that's gone in the last 6 months to keep the trash fee where it is, to really keep the storm fee stable, and then to assess really what do we need as far as sanitary and where are we going with that. I'm sorry if I said too much there.
Nope, I agree totally on all of that. And sanitary is doing their part to try to save too. The solar was one major avenue that we went to try to do as much as we can. And like I said, my maintenance guys have got the life out of everything they can. I mean, they didn't, after 20 years when you should be at your life of your clarifier, they didn't say, oh, well, we're done, buy us new clarifiers. They welded, they Band-Aid, they did everything they could to keep them running, so they ran for 44 years. Same thing they'll continue to do. We're not going to stop doing what we're doing. We continue to find different avenues of savings that we can do. It just, at this point, the sanitary is in need of some love and care.
Something else I know that Tracy and we've talked about, and something that I want to make sure that we get brought to the council very soon, is that the importance of looking at a sanitary impact fee in the future. Which, before I scare anybody who might be watching this meeting about what that means, if you already own a home in Portage and you don't plan on building a new home in Portage, don't worry. You can put it on mute because you'll never, no, don't put it on mute, but you will never pay that fee. A sanitary impact fee would be a fee for new construction in the city that then goes to the impact, which is the installation of the sewer system. Right now, every new neighborhood built in the city, the installation is primarily being paid for by me and by Tracy, by any resident in the city who's paying your sanitary fee, your sewer fee. That money has to go towards installing the sewer into these new neighborhoods. Now, I'm not saying anything negative about the new neighborhoods. They're doing what the law requires them to do. But it's important for us that if you've got a new development, that development should be paying for itself when it comes to how it impacts the city. Because it's just not fair to residents, in my opinion, to say, hey, we're going to take your money to pay for somebody else's sewer hookup, but we have to leave your pipes on your street the way they are. So that's something that we're also going to be working on through the summer to keep the cost directed, the cost for installation for the people who are installing, and then that way the cost of maintenance can be paid by the fees paid by people who are already using the system.
And that goes for industries too. Any like new industries, same thing. They're the ones helping with the impact that occurs.
And I say that now because I know that you guys are, of course, the legislative body, but I think it's very important that these two things happen as concurrently as possible so that we're not by any means looking at raising potentially the rates for people and then it's still not money going to benefit them,
You had stated that we are the lowest amount in the state of Indiana. Did we research, at least with Northwest Indiana, how are surrounding cities?
Yes,
How are we
I mean, there
related?
has been, we've looked at different cities. That's what, part of what Buzz Crone has done also with Crone and Associates when they did their rate study. They've looked at surrounding cities. I do know that recently it was just in the news, and I don't have the exact amount, but Valpo is raising their rates over a few years, a certain amount over a couple years. There's Crown Point, it wasn't too long ago, they did a major project and needed to. I mean, several of the cities around us need to. I'm not certain on what all of them were. We do have the study and we'll provide it to the council after next month because we'll have the resolution passed at the sanitary board and then we'll bring everything to the council next month, so we'll have more information then that I can give you direct numbers, so I'm not just popping some things out of my head and I might be wrong, because I don't want to be wrong on anything, but
And it's important that we have our own numbers that we're bringing about what we need for our city before we can really compare to others, because this can't be political. This can't be, we need to know what Portage needs no matter what, and then we can compare it to others. But as noted, not only are we low compared to others in Northwest Indiana, across the state, in a lot of those places, not only are they higher than us, but they're increasing their costs because the costs are going up for them too. And so for us, it's a bit of a matter of keeping up, not keeping up by comparison, but keeping up with the fact that residents do expect their toilet to work when they flush it. And residents do expect the pipes to be safe on their street. And so we need to be as real as we can about the cost of covering that. But we also need to be smart and efficient with how we do it. Every Portage department, I'm very, very proud to say, takes that very seriously, making sure that we're maintaining in the best way, that we're being as creative and skillful as we can with keeping things running. It's amazing how old some of the equipment in the city of Portage is that's still running very well, and that speaks to the work of the mechanics and all of our city employees that keep it running. But at the same time, we have to plan, because when you've got a piece of equipment, and I'm not using a sanitary example in this case, but for example, if you've got a piece of equipment that usually has a lifespan of 15 to 20 years and we're on 28, that's kind of amazing, but we can't expect it to make it to 48. And so we'll have the full numbers for you, but we want to make sure that we're prepping the council in an appropriate way about what's coming, so that we're not just throwing this at you at the July meeting.
right, and the state requires it of us also. The state doesn't like that if you have lower rates, they don't see you taking care of your facility, that you're not assisting the facility. So the state will also, they'll eventually come in and put down regulations. Now, we haven't had any violations, and we don't ever plan on it. We're very, like I said, besides our lab, our operators, everyone is very committed that we don't get major violations or have to, discharge straight to Lake Michigan. We don't want that. We're very dedicated in what we do. So we haven't had the state coming down on us, but it's a potential that they could say, no more building if you don't do this. I mean, they've never come close to it with us right now, but it's always a potential.
And again, that's where it's planning ahead for the future, rather than being in a spot where we're catching up, with the past.
Yeah, so like we said, we'll have a lot more information and to give to you next month.
Well, thank you so much, Tracy.
Thank you. Is there any other questions or anything? Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Chief Crail, do you have something else to say? Oh, sorry, the way you were leaning forward, I thought maybe it was, okay, cool. Are there any reports from standing committees? Or I guess any committee, but I think we just have standing committees right now.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, only briefly. Today, the Ordinance Committee met in our regularly scheduled monthly meeting, the first Tuesday of the month at 5:30 p.m. Today, we discussed the amendment to the travel ordinance that was brought before the council and voted on today. It seems like we kind of rushed through it a little bit, but the amendment to the travel ordinance was made to reflect basically that there is an exigency plan if there's a better deal available, that the city can go ahead and take it. We also cleared up some language with ordinances and laws, words. Every word counts, every word is very important. So we cleared up some language that was double negatives in the way it was worded. As far as the situation that brought these needed changes to our attention, Madam Clerk Treasurer can explain it if she'd like, but basically just to, if I'm not mistaken, it was more expensive to commute to a two-day conference in South Bend than it would be just to stay there overnight with the mileage and all that reimbursement. And so now the ordinance reflects for people who are using the city charge or credit card to seek the better deal. And it made sense to the ordinance committee and clearly to the council. We encourage members of the public to attend our next meeting, which would be next month, first Tuesday of the month at 5:30, prior to our regularly scheduled council meeting. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nothing further.
Thank you. Liz, did you want to say something, or we good?
Yes, I did. What made me look at the travel ordinance was that it's a mandatory conference I have to go to. It's actually a 4-day conference in South Bend, and it's 70 miles away, and the travel ordinance said 75 miles away, so I don't want to be in violation of our ordinance that we just passed last month. So I brought it to the mayor's attention, and he told me to sit down with me and him sat down, and also the city attorney, and we came up with a solution as far as, like we said, if you can get a better deal, it was going to cost me it was going to cost the city $93.80 just for me to travel back and forth for reimbursement for my mileage, plus $22 a day for parking, and it was a total of $115.80 that the city would have to pay, and I could get a hotel rate for $98 a day. So it's a savings of only $17.80 a day in savings, but if we have 380 employees, if, we go out of town for a travel, for any type of training, then if we can get a better deal than what the ordinance says, then we should look for it. And it gives us basically the Board of Works the right to go ahead and approve travel if it's going to be more beneficial for the city or less costly for the city.
Great. Thank you so much. We have the remonstrances, petitions, and if anybody would like to come up and speak to the council, now is a great time. We try to limit it to about 2 minutes. I'm not crazy about holding it down to an exact amount, but if anybody would like to come up, feel free.
Can I say one more thing?
Oh, sure, and you don't even have to go up to the podium. You can stay right there.
This Friday, there's also at 6 o'clock, or actually at 4 o'clock, the Relay for Life's going to be going on at Willow Creek School. And the survivors lap is going to be at 6 p.m. And then afterwards is going to be a small little dinner for the survivors. So if anybody's interested in that, I just wanted to make that announcement.
Thank you so much. Unless there's anything else anyone would like to say, can we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none.